Good evening, Nasties. Welcome to the Oil Stream pregame show brought to you by GCL Diesel. It's the Edmonton Oilers and Pittsburgh Penguins tonight down at Rogers Place. Puck drop just after 7. I'm your host, Hernan Salas, for tonight, as the regular main host, Tom Gazzola, is working the Elks sidelines tonight down there at Commonwealth Stadium, 7:30 p.m. So it'll be me and YouTube Trev for the pre and post game shows, of course, joined by our analyst, former NHLer and overall great guy, Matt Kassian, as we're going to tee up and talk all things Oilers and Penguins here on the Oil Stream pregame show. We'll get Trev on here shortly, as well as Cass with Game Changers. We'll go through lineups and all that fun stuff. Of course, the Oil Stream pregame show is brought to you by GCL Diesel, providers of the best diesel engine components around, from turbochargers to injectors, fuel pumps to sensors that are the critical engine component experts, proud to serve Edmonton and Northern Alberta for over 50 years. And of course, we want you to join the conversation. Hit us up on the text line at 780-218-9999 or on the very popular Nasty Chat on YouTube. Of course, you want to listen to us, tune in radio or the iHeartRadio apps, or watch us on the EST YouTube channel. We're just ahead of the question of the night that will be brought to you by YouTube Trev once he's ready to jump on screen here. Like I said, it's the Oilers who sit at 2-4-1 after 7 games, taking on the Penguins 3-4-1. The Penguins currently, this is their second game on their 4-game Canadian road trip. They'll be in Vancouver tomorrow and then finish it off in Winnipeg. Let me double check that. No, this is their 3rd game. They'll finish it off tomorrow. They've already played in Winnipeg and Calgary, picking up 2 losses there. If YouTube Trev is ready to go, we'll get to the question of the night. YouTube Trev, welcome to the show. It's first time for us working together. It's fun. You did this a lot last year, so you should be the experienced one on this show.
Yeah, holy crap. It's, man, the memories flooding back coming in this late. This has been I can't remember. Actually, I can vividly remember the last time I opted a pre and post game show was probably one of the worst nights of my life. And if you don't know what night that was Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah.
And it was tough.
A tough one.
It was tough, especially when we had some technical issues and Tommy had to bolt from his patio, get into the room. And I felt bad for Cass, because Cass he could clearly see I was in distress. And I'm just like, well, Cass, like, is there any moral, what are the wins of the season? And Cass was just like, well, Trev, they just lost in the Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. There are no moral victories here. So it was a fun night. Well, no, it was a tough night, but a fun first year at EST, producing with Cass and obviously Tom Gazzola. A lot of fun. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've been tuning in, and I got to say, Hernan, you've been absolutely crushing it, man. It's been so fun. No, it's been so fun to tune in to hear what you have to say. Obviously, I've been a fan of yours for quite some time, so it's been awesome. But yes, the question of the night.
Let's go.
It's been talked about quite a bit this week, but the Oilers, they have finally they have made some changes with the power plays, and the question of the night is, when the Oilers get their first look on the power play, will it be the new look power play, or will it be the same 5 that they've rolled out all season long? So I'm curious to see, as we've seen before, Chris Knobloch, he has tinkered with the lineups, and then come game time, he doesn't. It's just like for practice, I guess. I don't really know the logic or the knowledge behind that. But so that's why we posed the question, because who knows, man? Just because he made the line adjustments during practice doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to happen during the game tonight.
Exactly. And we've seen coaches do this in the past. And I know we talked with Reed and we talked with Gager, and we all kind of were like, well, he might go back to the 5 and say, okay, you got one more game to prove yourselves. If not, but I am intrigued, and I hope he does go with the new look. I just want to see it. I hope both power plays get a look, and it might be a good kick in the pants for Zach Hyman, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and Evan Bouchard, who have been struggling to find some points, the back of the net, and all that. So, Nasty's question of the night. You two, Trev, once again, let us know at 780-218-9999 or on the Nasty Chat. YouTube, Trev, one more time, the question of the night.
When the Oilers get their first look on the power play tonight against Pittsburgh Penguins, will it be the new look power play, or the same 5 that we've seen all season long?
All right, let's get to starting lineups. So we're just ahead of Matt Kassian with game changers. For the Edmonton Oilers, line number 1, McDavid between RNH and Zach Hyman. Line number 2 will be Vasily Podkolzin, Leon Draisaitl, and Victor Arvidsson. Line 3, it will be Jeff Skinner, Rico, and Connor Brown. And on your 4th line, Jan Mark with Ryan and Perry. Defensively, Ekholm Bouchard. Nurse returns to the left side with Troy Stetcher, and Brett Kulak with Ty Emberson, who makes his return to lineup after sitting out last game. Out for the Oilers, Travis Dermott is the only one. For the Penguins, this is not confirmed, but this is what we think they're going to go with. First line, Sidney Crosby with Brian Rust and Drew O'Connor. Michael Bunting with Yevgeny Malkin, who has 11 points on the season, and Ricard Raquel. Anthony Beauvillier with Lars Eller and Cody Glass is your third line. Kevin Hayes, Nola Cherry, and Jesse Puljujarvi makes his triumphant return to Edmonton. You better sprinkle a little bit. This guy's probably going to get a point or a goal or something. That's just always happens when the Oilers have a returning player coming back to Rogers Place. Defensively, Marcus Pettersson with Chris Letang, Matt Grzelcyk with Eric Carlson, and then the third pair is Ryan Graves with Jack St. Ivany. Starting goalies, 25-year-old Stuart Skinner gets the start. He's 1-3-1 on the season with a 3.74 goals against average and an .866 save percentage in 5 games this season. He is 1-0 against the Penguins in his career, 1.96 goals against and .917 in the only game he's played against Sid and the Penguins. Pittsburgh is going to run with rookie goaltender, 22-year-old Joel Blomqvist, 2-2 on the season, 3.16 goals against average, and .908 save percentage in 4 games this season. He was really good in the AHL last year. He had excellent numbers. Quickly, I'm going to get to the Advantage Sports Medicine injury report. At Advantage Sport Medicine and Physiotherapy, we treat you like the pros. Our multidisciplinary team includes sports medicine physicians, along with highly skilled physiotherapists, strength and conditioning coaches, and massage therapists. Whether you're recovering from an injury or looking to enhance performance, we treat you like a pro, using the same locker room approach trusted by the best in the game. In the injury report for Edmonton, Evander Kane, obviously on LTIR. There were reports from Kevin Weeks, I think it was yesterday, stating that he could make a return early in 2025. And Ruby, how do you say it, Trevor? Roby
Jarventi.
Jarventi looks like he got activated. He will go down to Bakersfield, get some games in there, and we'll see if he's a call-up. There's a long lineup for sure, so we'll see if Jarventi gets the call-up. And for Pittsburgh, Blake Lizotte on the IR, along with forward Matt Nieto. Those are the only injuries so far for the Pittsburgh Penguins. But let's bring in the big guy, Matt Kassian, as it's time for Game Changers. Let's see if he's... Matty, you there? There he is.
I'm here and ready to go.
How you doing?
I'm doing good, buddy. How are you? It's good to see you and running the ship, no less. It's great. Trev,
Yeah,
it's always good to see you too, buddy.
It's a little different, and that's why Tommy gets the big bucks, because this is a very tough job, Cass. But we'll get to Game Changers, brought to you by Damon Bunting, Remax Elite. Damon Bunting is a consistent top-producing realtor in the greater Edmonton and among Western Canada Remax Realtors. He and his team would love to help you find that right home or make the move from your current home. Community-driven, he understands what it takes to make a difference in our city. Check him out on DamonBunting.com or visit his Instagram at Damon Bunting Real Estate. Cass, this is always a fun game because Sid the Kid, Yevgeny Malkin come up and they take on the dynamic duo of the Edmonton Oilers and Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Your number one game changer is still Sid.
Yeah, still Sid. I mean, listen. You saw him. I was down at the rink today. We had a little bit of an alumni skate and a little bit more iron in his hair than there used to be. He's not so much a kid anymore, as we all know. But hey, Sidney Crosby is still one of the best players in the world. We've got to see these two play each other a number of times. But anytime you can see one of the greatest ever play the current greatest player or the most talented player in the world in Connor McDavid, it's just an absolute treat to watch. Both these guys like to win. They play with pride. Both these teams have not had great starts to the season, so you're kind of looking just like always at that Crosby-McDavid matchup. Both guys want to just put their their stamp on it, and they have a ton of respect for each other, but they also want to win and be better than the guy across from them. So it's going to be fun. It always is. Sid, an absolute masterclass in the offensive zone and able to play in both ends. And Connor, what can you say? Just world-class speed, explosiveness, and excitement. So two great players to watch. Just always a fantastic matchup. So as always, Hernan, I'm just excited to watch Sid play Connor. Just a great matchup to see.
Yeah, and you saw Connor kind of give him his accolades, saying he should be the captain of the Four Nations. There's no question about it. But it's always great when you have like these generational guys because they just love going to toe-to-toe. Hey, there's no fear there. It's like knowing that Sidney Crosby's older, and for Sid, Connor's the younger guy, like the flashy new guy. That he's just a player that we've never seen in the NHL. But it's great when the generational talents go toe-to-toe. There's nothing like it.
No, absolutely not. And I think for the most part, Connor has outperformed Sid in those, and we should kind of expect that. Sidney Crosby, his star is, albeit very, very slowly fading. It's fading. Like he's getting older. But he's still one of the best players in the world, but he is getting older, and Connor is in his prime right now. So it's not surprising from a point standpoint that it looks like Connor McDavid has probably outperformed Sid a little bit in there in the head-to-head matchups, but still generational, as you said, and a lot of fun to watch, Hernan.
Yeah, point number 2. Blunk Vistador. Did I get that right?
I think so. I was trying to go with like a conquistador, although I don't know if that's a good thing. But I was like, how can I just spin this? And he's a Finnish guy. First Finnish guy I've ever seen named Joel. I wonder if that's his real name or if they like adapted it.
That threw me off
no
today
idea.
On EST Afternoons because we had Taylor Haas from Pittsburgh, and she goes, "Yeah, he's Finnish." We're like, "What? Excuse me?" Like we didn't even clue in.
Yeah, well, the last name clued me in, but then the Joel threw me. The first time I saw it, where I was just like, "Huh." Like he's Finnish. Yeah, not too many Finnish guys named Joel. Again, so I don't know if they adapted it or what, but just that we're even having this conversation, Hernan tells me that this is probably a young guy, and he is at only 22 years old, a very young goaltender. Now we know the Finnish goalie system, and they just for whatever reason have the capacity, their national program, to just pump out absolute studs on the goaltender position. And here's another guy that the Pittsburgh Penguins are incredibly excited about, and so excited that they send Tristan Jarry all the way back to Pittsburgh to work on his game. That's how much they trust putting him in the net. Now, maybe not as great of a start for him or as the team as they would like, in that he's running right now. Joel is running with a 3.16 goals against per game and a .908 save percentage. Not horrible numbers, but not great numbers either. But a young guy here who's probably going to be pretty pumped to try to play against Connor McDavid, play against Leon Draisaitl. And even though the Oilers' power play has been struggling, still always a big task for a goaltender. You get up for these games, but a young guy, largely unproven in the NHL, an opportunity for Edmonton to try to stick it to a young guy. And we all know, I just love going back to like that Garrett Sparks with the Toronto Maple Leafs against the Edmonton Oilers. Like we all know how Edmonton sometimes plays against these young guys that are excited to play in one of their first NHL games. But for Edmonton, hey, an opportunity to try to light the lamp against a team that's been struggling and a goaltender that's still a little bit fresh in the NHL.
Cass, every time you get a rookie goaltender, the message is always just fire everything on net, right?
Well, it's not just fire everything on net. It's get to the net.
Get to the net.
It's get to the net. And the two are slightly different, right? Because fire everything to the net is if you're just throwing pucks from outside and you can see him, well, you're going to let him feel the puck a lot. You're going to let him feel comfortable. And there's lots of goalies that like that. They like being semi-busy. No, and they don't like the backdoor tap-ins, but if they have shots from distance that they can see, it's like, yeah, everything's from outside and I can see it the whole way. Probably not going to go in. They feel comfortable. So it's not just, shot volume and get everything in the net. It's get bodies. It's pucks and bodies to the net. It's get around the net, crash in it, which is something they haven't done incredibly well. We've seen moments of it, flashes of it, but we haven't seen them consistently throughout a whole game really create a ton of havoc around the net. There were moments in that Carolina game. Now, Freddie Anderson played really well, but there were moments where they did it, and hopefully they build that in. But if we're looking at criticisms of the Oilers over the first number of games in the season, getting to the front of the net and creating chaos has not been his strong suit. And against a young guy, that's what you got to do.
For sure. Let's move to game changers number 3, Tinker Time power play. It was our question of the night as well.
Yeah.
Because we discussed it earlier, and I think Reed said, I think Gager said, I think they're going to roll out the normal number 1 unit. But what did you make of the changes? And I guess you can answer the question of the night as well, if you'd like. Do you think it's going to be the new unit we saw come out for that first power play tonight?
Yep. I think it's going to be the old unit that comes out. And I think, I think it's going to be the original, the OG, whatever you want to call it. Like that's what's probably going to hop over the boards. I think it was, and we saw this Knobloch do this earlier already this season with Skinner, where you had the practice demotion for one practice, and then right back up. So he's using practice to communicate displeasure and to try to spark something. And I think for Knobloch, he hasn't had to have, since he's been the coach in Edmonton, he hasn't really needed to pull any kind of levers to get the power play going. He hasn't needed to pull any levers to figure out, okay, when Zach Hyman's not playing well, how do I get him going? When Ryan Nugent-Hopkins isn't playing well, how am I going to get him going? Like, he hasn't had to deal with that. And so looking at the situation, it's like, okay, step number 1 is send a message in practice.
Yeah.
Now, it's not a rough message. It's not like a brutal, vicious call you out in front of everybody. But, guys see who's on that PP1 for practice, and it's a message that's pretty strongly sent. Now, I do think he goes back to the normal group, but I think it's going to be a short leash. So it's like, I think, now I could be wrong. Maybe he starts a new one. But in Evan Bouchard in particular, you're going to tell me Evan Bouchard's not going to start in the power play tonight? Like,
As much as we love Ekholm, but Bouchard, that's his bread and butter, man.
That's his bread and butter. Now, you can send him a message and you can communicate in practice. And now if he goes out and he doesn't do well, guess what? We've got Matthias Ekholm, who took some reps in practice, ready to step in and to do it if you just don't perform here. So I think it's more message communicating than anything. Now, the one I have time for, and I've said this over and over again, and I've said this the last number of games, is the Skinner for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is Zach Hyman's, 50 goal guy last year. Now, hasn't scored, hasn't been able to find the back of the net. Let him work through it. But to me, I'm like, okay, you have a guy that's a 30 goal scorer in Skinner that can shoot the puck, that maybe does give you a little bit of an extra flavor there that you could slide in if Ryan Nugent-Hopkins isn't having a lot of success, and you could see what happens. So, I have time if you do want to make small switches, but the wholesale change, I just can't see them running that whole new unit, Hernan. It just doesn't make sense to me. They've had too much success for too long. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they want to switch it up, but I just don't see it.
Okay, because I'm kind of with you, and I think Gager was. I think we're all kind of in the same boat. We're like, we think he's going to roll out the original 5, right? Let's just say, let's say he does. Then the players look at the coach and be like, well, you scared us a little bit, but it's, you still went back to us. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's fine, because the whole point is, we scared you a little bit. If he rolls out with the original and they suck,
he's going to make
then you got to back up the threat, right? Then you have to back up the threat, and that's what you go to next.
Okay.
Right. Like that's, so if they go out and the first time you send the original guys and they struggle and they're not generating anything and they're not executing, power play number 2 immediately. Like, go to that second group, go to that next group, or that next time, guess what? Then you switch it up. So it's like an escalating message, right? You start with the step 1. Step 1 is you communicate in practice. Step 2 is you actually pull that lever that in the game, you're going to start to try something different. That to me is like, I don't think you lose anybody in doing that unless you ultimately don't follow through on your threat if they're not performing. Like, it's scaring them is good, That's what the whole point is, to try to scare them a little bit.
Yeah.
And not an unnecessary fear. Like, it's not like scaring someone for the sake of scaring them, but it hasn't been working. And so, to try to get some, get a spark mentally to try to just push through. However you're doing it, you're trying to find some, just a lever that works with those guys.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think it's the most anticipated first power play in Edmonton Oilers history tonight, as we all anticipate what's going to happen.
Everyone will be holding their breath when that first penalty gets called.
Well, I think,
and watch, there'll be 0 penalties tonight.
Yeah,
Zero.
yeah,
None.
they'll get 0 power, because I think Reed and Gage were saying, like, the crowd is also going to be on the edge of their seat waiting to see who jumps over the boards, which is pretty funny. But that's what happens when your team's off to a slow start. Cash, you're going to be down at the game, right? You're doing a presentation?
No, that was last game. Yeah, it was down last game. Yep.
Okay, so you're
last
staying
game was
at
down
home.
at it. Was that little presentation was my daughter's first game, which was great.
That's right. Yeah.
Which is where we recorded at the rink with Tommy beforehand, which was great. So no, we'll be watching this one today, but not down at the rink for this one, which is okay. Gives me the chance to pause and rewind and yell at the TV. So.
I think Gage is going down for his former coach, good old Mac T there. So, yeah. Okay. Awesome stuff, Cass. We'll catch up with you on the post-game show. Hopefully it's a W for the Edmonton Oilers. They've kind of dominated the last 3 years, this team, so we'll see what happens tonight down at Rogers Place. But thanks for Game Changers, and we'll chat in about 3 hours.
Absolutely, buddy. Keep crushing it, and you too, YouTube Trev.
That's Matt Kassian, our in-game analyst for Game Changers. That segment was brought to you by Damon Bunting, Remax Elite. Get your mug up on here on YouTube, Trev.
Oh, he gave me a shout out there. It's always so nice seeing Cass.
He's the best.
He stopped by the other day, and it's always a treat being able to see him, because he doesn't stop by much, but when he does, like, he makes his presence known, and it's so cool, man. Oh, what a beauty. An absolute beauty.
Stu on the inbox says, I think the power play will only rebound once the original 5 players figure it out and start scoring more consistently. He says they have had bad patches each of the last few seasons. I think this funk has just started early this season. Spency 5 Sensi just jumped on me there. I think the Oilers run the new power play, look for 2 chances, and if it doesn't convert, they go back to old faithful. Scalding Gord. Oilers won't get a power play, which will allow us to continue to wonder, plus allow many to complain about the refs again. It's a YouTube Trev, 2 for 1.
2 for 1. 2 for 1. I saw that. Yeah, that's interesting.
This one says, how come you guys aren't at the Elks game? Well, there's 2 reasons. YouTube Trev has to do pregame, so he couldn't be down there, and Zacticum was on air producing the Reed Wilkins show until 6. So very hard for the boys to go down there. And Jay and Maddie are kicking off the Green and Gold Kickoff show right now. You can watch it on YouTube as well. Once we're done here at 7, the audio stream will flip to their pregame show as well. They're down at Century Casino on Fort Road. Go check it out if you want to support the Go Elks. And they'll have the World Series game. They'll have the Oilers game on. You can bet on the Ponies. And you can hang out with Iwanik and Jay Milne. There's nothing better on a Friday evening.
It's always so fun.
So I want to ask you, I think I'm leaning more with Cass. I think it's going to be the original 5 to come out for the first power play. YouTube Trev, do you think it's going to be what we think it's going to be, or are they going to run the new unit?
Man, what a question. Yeah, I've been pondering this a lot and just thinking about it a lot whenever I'm going to sleep or waking up, because I just can't stop thinking about it, man. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, this is the best power play the NHL has ever seen, which is crazy. And obviously it's going to struggle. You're going to get the ebbs and flows. But, I forget who said, you had mentioned that the power play has struggled over the last few years, but it's never been like this. It's never been like this. So I honestly think for the first time that tonight, I would not be surprised if they change it up. I think when the first power play, so I'm gonna be a little bit different here. I think they're gonna get a few looks, the new power play units, PP1 and PP2. But if that's not working, then it's back to the old drawing board. The original 5 suspects come out. It's just, but it's just crazy. Like they shouldn't be. And it's once the floodgates open, it's gonna be fine. But it's just they've never been this bad on the power play, and I don't buy into the fact that other teams are getting so used to, they're like, I don't care what you say, whatever you do, the videotapes, the surveillance, whatever, all the studying you do on this power play. If you give Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, Nuge, Hyman, and Evan Bouchard the extra man advantage, they should take advantage of that, and they have for years. So I don't care what you do, your due diligence. I don't buy into and
they figured them out.
Yeah, no, I don't buy into that at all. I think it's more so the Oilers they're fighting it right now, and they're passing on plays they should shoot, and they're shooting on plays they should pass. I've found that they're a little bit more predictable this year, which is one thing I've kind of talked about as well on the Nielsen show this week. You look at teams like I go to the best power play last year, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Like, they whipped that puck around so good.
Yeah.
And at times, the one thing, I'm no power play specialist, but one thing I would just love to see, and you saw him last year, 100 apples first, along with Connor McDavid, Nikita Kucherov. He's got a great shot, but he's also, he can pass just so well. And he'll always do a fake shot. He'll always do a fake shot, and he'll pass it to the slot. And I wouldn't mind seeing Leon do that. Like, it's like, he's going to take that shot every single time. And I've yet to see him ever fake shot. And again, I'm no power play specialist, but I just like to see some new looks. Like, you can do new looks you can make up new plays with this, old power play that is, just as we've seen over the years, has put up historic numbers.
Do you remember last game? I think it was the first power play, and I think I made fun of it on Twitter. I think Dusty did. Like, Connor McDavid was trying to get the puck to Leon Draisaitl no matter what.
Yes.
And twice.
Too predictable.
Twice it got picked off.
Yeah.
So it's like, stop going to that play. And I agree with you. And I think Cass said it too. They haven't figured out the Oilers' power play. It's a power play, Trev. There's only so many systems you can play. Ovechkin, how many goals has he scored from the same spot?
Exactly. He made a living.
He still does.
Yes.
Have they figured that out? For me, it's urgency. It's having a little more passion, a little more care that you're out there, because I feel like the Oilers, outside of the last few games, they kind of want to see what the opposition is going to bring to them.
Yes.
Like, is this going to be a hard night? Do we need to go extra hard? Can we take it easy? And you saw in the last couple of games, they came out really well against Carolina and Dallas, ultimately lost in the third period in both games. That cost them. But yeah, I don't think this power play has been figured out. I think it's just guys I don't know. Stanley Cup hangover. Maybe they're not up to speed yet. I don't know what it is, but I really hope I see the new power play, Trev.
Yeah,
I do. But I also agree with what Cass said. If they don't, and it's the same five, but they have a stinker in the first one, then Nob can be like, "Okay, I've seen enough.
I could see
you
that.
Guys are out."
Yeah. No. Absolutely. And like, you want to, and you'd think you want to get those five guys going. You got to get them going together on the same power play. Like, and that's why I don't really have time for splitting them up, because it's like, oh, great, they're splitting them up. That's awesome. But what happens when you put them back together? It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. So, it's going to be an interesting thing to see. Like I say, I think this is the most anticipated first power play that in the history of the Oilers that everybody wants to see. Chief Andy says, Knobber seems like the type of dad that even if you're failing in math and English, you can still go to the movies. Well, that's not entirely true. He benched Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah.
He switched Jeff Skinner in practice, put him in the bottom six even before the season started, and it worked.
Yep.
So if he does this today, I'm gonna applaud him, and he's got huge cojones. I'll give him that. If he doesn't, I'm gonna be a little disappointed, Trev. I am. Chris G says new power play will come, but Leon and McDavid will stay on the second power play unit. Well, that's the thing, Trev. Let's say they go to the new power plays. Okay, let's just say.
Don't say it.
Does McDavid and Draisaitl's power play unit still get a minute 40?
Yeah, and like that's another thing. Like how do you expect with one practice? I mean, they're the best athletes in the world, best hockey players in the world, but like you're expecting them to provide crazy offense or just provide any offense with 30 seconds of time on ice, and then what does that do for the players? Like, there's got to be some lingering effects where they're like, oh, great. Like, this is awesome. I got to show what I can do with 15 seconds on the power play. Thanks, coach.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what's that conversation like?
And it was interesting that he said earlier in the week that he goes, well, most most good power play units don't have a second power play. They don't go to it as often. And he goes, teams that have 2 power play units that get equal times because they're not good.
Yeah.
And he said that. And I was like, damn, I never thought of it that way. Because back in the day, Trev, like when you weren't even around yet because you're so young, like most teams ran 2 power plays almost all the time.
Yep.
Like it was like back in the early 90s, I for me at least, I never saw the Oilers run 1 power. I mean, the Hemsky days, it was always Hemsky, Horikoff, Smitty to start, but the second unit would get equal time.
Yeah.
Especially if they weren't rolling. But I'm going to throw some numbers out to our listeners. Keep the text coming at 780-218-9999 or on the Nasty Chat. And like I mentioned about 5 minutes ago, if you want to watch the Green and Gold Kickoff Show with Matty Iowanek and Jay Milne, they're live on YouTube as well. And their stream, I guess, pregame show will jump to the audio feed at 7 o'clock once we're done.
Heck yeah.
YouTube, Trev.
Salas.
The Oilers are second last in goals for in the NHL. Second last. They're 29th on the power play at 10.5%. They're 2 for 19. They're last in the league in penalty kill, and it's not even close. They're 12 for 22. It's just awful. And Stuart Skinner sits 55th in save percentage at 866. Also, Donuts from Nuge, Arvidsson. Who am I missing? Adam Enrique.
Zach Hyman, no goals.
Zach Hyman, no goals. These are the reasons why they're losing.
Yeah.
Like it's for a team that's supposed to be contending for a Stanley Cup, and you see those numbers, and when the players do their post games after loss, and they're like, "Well, if we knew, we'd figure." Like, how can you not figure this out? This isn't a young team anymore, Trev. This is an old team. The only guy I've seen be somewhat honest, and because you don't get a lot of honesty from the hockey players, they give you the cliche answers, is Corey Perry. Yeah. Like, this isn't good enough. And this team you're playing today, 3-4-1. They sit 4th in the Metro, 8th in the East. They're 12th on the power play. They're 10th on the PK. This isn't going to be easy. And you know what else? They got 3 guys that have been there, done that. And Evgeny Malkin, Sidney Crosby, and Chris Letang. Oh, and they also have Erik Karlsson. Oh, and they also have a former Oiler that would like nothing better than to stick it to them in Jesse Puljujarvi. This is going to be, I still think, Trevor, the Oilers are going to win this game. I do. But I don't think it's going to be easy. And what scares me about this team is when they play a lesser team, it takes them about 10 minutes to see what kind of game they need to play to win.
Yeah, it's kind of like they play with their food. I've noticed that a lot. Like last year, they're kind of just like, let's see what we're dealing with here. Let's see what they can bring. And then they bring it. So they like to test the waters. But you look at them, the last 6 games that they played against this team, they have been able to put in at least 4 goals or more, 5 goals, 5 goals, 6 goals, 7 goals, 6 goals, and then 4 goals. Sorry, I didn't know if you were going to dive into those numbers.
Yeah, that's good.
So, yeah, like this is a team, and you look no further than Connor McDavid, right? Will Fraser, he couldn't have said it any better on the morning show, the Nielsen show this morning. He said, one thing's for sure, Connor McDavid, he marks. I don't think he marks this on the calendar, but he likes to get up for these games. Like they're the big games, and so you'd like to think if any game that they're gonna finally get off the schneid, if you will, it'd be this one. And I've had a good feeling, man. I'm pumped for tonight's game, and I know that doesn't really mean much, but like I have this feeling, this tingle. I've got a tingle, and I feel like tonight's the night the floodgates open. Nasty Chat, Nasties. If I'm wrong, you can definitely let me know in the post game, and they will. But no, I think they're gonna finally, hopefully, start getting some contributions from the players that you had mentioned, because it is simply unacceptable. But at the same time, you got to think it is very early, but regardless of that, like these guys, they're getting paid the big bucks. They're, touted as being a Stanley Cup favorite. Why? Because they've got players like Zach Hyman. They've got the McDavids, Draisaitl's, who are simply just not doing good enough. And quite frankly, I'm getting sick and tired of talking about it. Like it's just they need to, produce offense. That's what this team is known for. And it's just,
but it comes
tough
with work, Trev.
And that's exactly
it. Like this team needs to be like, instead of starting strong and being able to coast the last month of the season, these guys are the opposite, man.
Oh,
they take 2 months off and then they're playing desperate hockey, going into the playoffs, which helped them last year. I mean, they made it all the way to the finals and were 1 game away, but this team, you just want to see more desperation. Like if they've dropped this one, they fall to 2-5-1, and it's almost
Deja vu.
identical to last year.
Like, what the heck?
And they're going out on a 4-game road trip. They go to Detroit, they go to Columbus, and those. I think Columbus has kind of ran their show in Columbus as of late. Detroit's always tough, no matter where you think they are in terms of where you would rank them in terms of the Oilers. But none of those teams should be close to the Edmonton Oilers. And I know in the NHL there's a lot of parity and you can lose to any team on any given night, Trev, but the Oilers really need to put a stretch here. The good thing is that the Oilers, against this team in the last 3 years, have won 6 straight against the Penguins, outscoring them 33-9.
Goals, and more goals.
And and I know a lot of our nasties and our listeners are worried about a rookie goaltender. That's what I was going to bring up with Cass. He brought up Garrett Sparks when he shut out the Oilers in his first ever game in the NHL, and I brought that up today to gauge her.
Oh, really?
I remember I was so mad, Trev.
I was ticked. as well.
Oh, you remember that?
I was in grade 12. Yeah. I couldn't get over it. Garrett Sparks. Who'd have thunk it? Yeah. I was blown away. I was baffled. And it was one of those things. It's like, why? At the time, I still am a fan, but I was saying why can't we do this? Why can't we have a goalie do this? You know?
Yeah.
I was so upset, man.
But those teams were brutal. Oh, sorry. And who was it here? Jason on the inbox says, Enrique has a score. Yeah, he did score against... He scored early in the season, so yes. Rowdy says, hey, Hernan, boys, awesome show. I think the Oil will be up for this game. Sit in town. Our best players need and will show up. The power play will get going.
I agree.
We need this one. Great to watch you guys. Rowdy, good to hear from him. He's a old school 1260 guy. He used to call in. He was pretty funny. A couple of times he was a little tinkered, but he was funny. He always kept it respectful. What are the odds the Bison King gets a tribute video? I think he does, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah. Everybody gets a tribute video.
Actually, okay. No, that's fair. He was a fan favorite.
They drafted him.
Yep.
Are you going to sprinkle? He's going to score tonight. You just know it.
Yeah, I mean, I would not be surprised at all if he puts the puck in the net, and it's kind of been fun. I mean, I hate it at the same time, but I don't mind. I'm one of the fans I love when players can just go off and find success elsewhere.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what Yessi is doing. And obviously, it's early into the season, and he was abysmal last year. When he joined the Penguins, it wasn't good at all. And I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if this is his last go in the NHL. But he lit it up in the preseason, as we saw when he was with the Oilers. He was always pretty good in the preseason, and he's continued that out to the regular season. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to have a chip on his shoulder tonight. I wouldn't be surprised if he scores.
He's going to play the game of his life. And
yeah.
Everybody on Twitter is going to be like, see, we should have kept him.
Yeah. Why didn't we do this?
Yeah. Well, the Penguins are coming off a 4-3 shootout loss in Calgary on Tuesday. That's a game they should have won, Trev. Calgary tied it late. They're on a 3-game losing streak. The Oilers are coming off a 3-2 OT loss that, for some reason, Stuart Skinner took a lot of heat for. The Oilers at home this year so far, 1-3-1, not good enough. The Penguins on the road are 2-2-1. So they are picking up points, YouTube, Trev. So, like I said, this team cannot just sit back and feel the game out and wait to see if they have to what kind of effort they have to put in.
Yep. No, absolutely. Well said, Hernan. And it's I go back to this, and I'm happy that they're aware of this, because I've always questioned it, especially last year. It's like they're shooting themselves in the foot. Why are they doing this? They're playing with their food. They're not starting with the first 10 minutes of the game. Why are they doing this? And that's one thing that the Amazon series Face Off showed. And I quote Connor McDavid, it's not bleeping ideal, but it happens all the time.
Yeah.
He's aware of it. And
that's what I mean.
And that's why I just don't get it. If you're aware of it as a captain to start the regular season, why is this not why is this a thing? Why are we discussing this right now?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. Well, yeah. And I talked about it when I was doing pre and post last year with Tommy, did Sid the Kid, did the Pittsburgh Penguins have this problem all the time? No, I don't think so. This is strictly Oiler thing, primarily a Connor McDavid, since this era has started. So I'm baffled by it. It never makes sense to me. And but I'm happy at least that McDavid is aware of it, and I hope he says that every freaking period, man. It's not ideal, but here we are again, guys.
I'm always intrigued about and I'd love to be in that room. I was in a professional room, and it's pretty cool to see behind the scenes what happens when you're playing like crap. I'd love to see what the conversations are between the team, YouTube, Trev. Come on, guys. We're doing this again. I hope that's being brought up. What are we doing, guys?
Yeah.
I hope it's not just like, don't worry about it, we'll be fine. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just want some, what do you call, piss and vinegar?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I want from this team. They almost seem fine with losing. Like, it's always like, we'll turn it around. They kind of feel like Matty Iwanek does, because yesterday he made a prediction. He never makes prediction.
Oh, gosh. Didn't hear this.
And he told me to write it down. He goes, the Oilers will be in the playoffs come the last game of the season.
Wow.
What are you worried about?
Yeah.
And he said it last year too. I'll give him credit, but it's not going to go the same as it did last year. The official lineup is out. So for the Edmonton Oilers, it's what we said in the opening. Nugent Hopkins with McDavid and Hyman. Draisaitl will center Vasily Podkolzin and Victor Arvidsson. Jeff Skinner with Adam Enrique and Connor Brown. And Matthias Janmark, who's coming off a very bad game with Derek Ryan and Corey Perry. Defensively, Ekholm with Bush. Nurse with Stetcher and Kulak with Emerson. Stuart Skinner gets the start. And for the Pittsburgh Penguins official lineup, Drew O'Connor with Sidney Crosby and Brian Rust. Malkin between Raquel and Bunting. Beauvillier with Lars Eller and Cody Glass. Kevin Hayes with Noah Cherry and Jesse Puljujärvi. Defensively, Marcus Pettersson, Chris Letang. Second pair, Matt Grzelcyk, Erik Karlsson. That's a pretty good top four, YouTube Trev. And then Ryan Graves with Jack St. Ivani. I don't even know if I'm saying that correctly. Never heard of that guy, YouTube Trev. So even Tom didn't know.
Who the hell are you? All of a sudden. Yeah, that's it is a pretty competitive defensive pairing. Obviously, Erik Karlsson hasn't quite fit in as I imagine he had hoped, coming off of a 100-point season, first 100-point season for a defenseman since like the 90s, which is just crazy. But I mean, you got Chris Letang, Erik Karlsson. I think my era growing up, those were two of the like household names, best defensemen. There are two of them, you know. So it's a good team. It was pretty cool last night. I teased this up to you yesterday or earlier this morning. I was having a pizza at Parlor downtown. And I'm just kind of looking around, and no kidding, I look to my right, and I'm just like, these guys look familiar. Who are these guys? And I'm just like kind of eating my pizza, looking at them. I'm looking at them, and then surely enough, I'm just like, I think that's the whole coaching staff of the Pittsburgh Penguins. And so I'm like, no freaking way. It was actually really cool. When they got up, I didn't want to interrupt them or anything like that. I had this whole thing. I was like prepped. I'm like, I'm going to ask them. I'm going to introduce myself, tell them I'm going to be interviewing them one day, and I'm the junior producer of Edmonton Sports Talk. And then he comes over, Mike Sullivan, and I'm just like, hey, man. I totally butchered it, man. It was so embarrassing. He's like, hello? And I was like, are you Mike Sullivan? He's like, yes. I'm like, good luck tomorrow. And he's like, thank you, and walked out. But I just wanted to share that with you. I was thinking, my stepdad's in town. I had this whole speech. I'm like, you're going to be really impressed after this. And he was like, that was embarrassing. So I just wanted to share that with the Nasties. But it was pretty cool, man. I gave him knuckles. It was sweet.
You're the best, YTT. Can you give us an update on the poll question on the Nasty chat?
Absolutely, I can. So that was the question of the night, but I had to reword it a little differently in the poll just to make sure the characters fit. Which power play will come over the bench first tonight against the Penguins, if there is one? Original five. So the original suspects, you know who that is: Zach Hyman, Evan Bouchard, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, or the new one, in quotes. And right now, the Nasties have spoken. They would like to see, 57% of them would like to see the original suspects, and 44% of the people the Nasties would like to see the new one. So there you go. A little split.
Nice. Easy E says, YTT is fired up tonight.
Let's
I
go.
love it.
Yeah, first pre and post of the season. I'm so pumped. It's been fun watching you guys. I'm not going to lie. I get an itch. I'm like, I want to say something, especially on post game after the losses. But there's no better person than you, right? I've heard the stories, and now I've seen why they call you the Latino Heat.
This one says from Steven, how long until the blender's loaded up? Ooh, man, Steven, coming with the good questions. I think it's going to take probably 25 minutes if the game is tight, that Knoblauch's going to get the itch and start moving everything around again, because that's all he does is keep moving all the forwards around. Rob from the Grove, is this really Jesse's first game back? Is it YouTube, Trev?
I'd like to think it is. It has to be.
Because where did he go? Carolina?
It was Carolina. They didn't play with Carolina. Then he was injured, didn't start until Pittsburgh last year. They were all done. The Oilers, they didn't play them Like, he didn't start playing last year till like February, and the Oilers played them in January, I believe. So this is I'm pretty sure his first game back in Edmonton.
Yeah,
as a visitor.
I think he came with Carolina, but he didn't play. Does that make sense? No,
I don't think.
Does anyone know out there? I'm trying to figure it out here on the spot. It's a little tough, but let me see if I can.
I think you're right. Actually, I think he did play last year. It was right around this time of the year. We were on location at Boston Pizza, and I'm pretty sure he laced up for that one. The Oilers got smoked.
Okay, so Carolina, and 2 years ago when he was there, he did not play Edmonton.
No?
No.
Well, there you go.
And then last year he wouldn't have, right? No. I think I would have remembered that.
Yeah, don't think so.
Dusty would have for sure remembered that. But Dusty's about to go on air here, so.
Let's go.
No, I think this is his first game back.
Yeah. Trust your instincts. I shouldn't have questioned myself. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm looking forward to it, man. It's going to be a good game. Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby. Oh, say nothing like what gets you going more than that, man?
I know. Shanzi says he came with Carolina but was a healthy scratch last year. See, I said that.
There it is.
That's what he said.
Should be a good one.
Prediction
for tonight. I really do think the floodgates open. I think Zach Hyman gets going. I do think PP1. Now that I think of it, I'm going back on what I originally said. I think the original 5 come out. I think Zach Hyman gets it on the power play. I think the Oilers are going to get some goals tonight. I'm going to say 6-2.
I'm going to say 5-1 Edmonton.
I like it.
I have a good feeling about tonight. Mm-hmm. And I know some people might be like, say the opposite, Hernan, because I'm always wrong. But knock it on wood twice here to make sure that doesn't happen. But the Edmonton Oilers take on the Pittsburgh Penguins, who are an interesting bunch because they got a lot of old guys and mixed in with some young guys. Michael Bunting not doing much there. Russ not doing much there. A good start for Rickard Rakell, who was an absolute stud in Anaheim, but ever since he's left, he hasn't been able to find his offensive game. Drew O'Connor's an interesting player, YouTube Trev. But for the Oilers, I'll be honest, I did not like Podkolzin being moved up into the top 6. I get it. He's out there hitting, but he doesn't do much for me. We'll see how long that lasts. That's why I think it's going to last 25 minutes, the lines, because they're going to notice right away that's not a fit, and they're going to make the move. I think Jeff Skinner, they're not moving him around because he's playing bad, YouTube Trev. They're moving him around because he's been one of their best forwards, and he was really good with Rico and Connor Brown.
Mm-hmm. This is correct. It's so frustrating. Like, all we talked about is Leon's finally got some wingers to play with all summer. And here we are, a few games in, and they're just bringing out that blender.
They're playing him with Podkolzin.
Like, they've got Podkolzin. Like, I don't know. It's kind of frustrating. And maybe I'll ask Cass that one day, but I'm so curious. Like, does that mess? Do you not get chemistry? Like, if you're bringing out the blender, mixing lines up, like, I have to think that affects with, you just read off people differently. That totally has an effect. So it's like they may not have results now, the lines, the top 6 and whatever. But it's like you're not going to get results, I don't think, by just bringing in new line mates for Leon in particular. And I wouldn't, I don't know. I wouldn't mind seeing Nuge and Hyman playing with Leon and then seeing what Skinner and Arvidsson could do with McDavid.
It's Dominic Cahoon all over again.
And that's another thing. I was talking about it. Like, this top 6 should be way better. Like, I've seen them do way better in previous years with way less. Dominic Cahoon, Kyler Yamamoto, Leon Draisaitl. Like, I remember that was the bubble year, 2020. That line looked great at times. And Leon Draisaitl's got Victor Arvidsson and Jeff Skinner. They haven't been able to get it done. Like, those are significant improvements. And so it's just frustrating that they haven't quite found their chemistry yet.
I can't imagine a player, YouTube Trev, loves being on a different line every game. I can't imagine that.
Yeah, it's got to be frustrating.
It's got to be super frustrating. Like, play me with my wingers. Let me get some chemistry. I've liked Arvidsson and Draisaitl. I've liked Skinner too. I think Skinner on every line he's played on in the first 7 games, he's been noticeable. But stop moving everything around. It's just getting to the point where I feel like this is just going to be the case of the season where the blender is going to come out every game. What Justinko says, just made a salsa verde in the blender. Took about 25 minutes. Same time as the lines get swapped out. You're right, Ern.
Careful.
Yeah, I like
That takes hot.
I like salsa verde. It's so good.
It is so good.
What's your recipe, Ocho Cinco? I'm intrigued. Yod says, don't question yourself. We will see Power Play 2 at some point. Yeah, some point tonight or in the future. Rip City Step says 7-3 Oilers. Roy Keane says 4-2 Oilers. Zedmo says the blender will come out in the first period. Let's see. What else do we got here before we let you go to watch the game? Pull it away. Here, I got a good one here. In the movie The Rocket, Dick Irvin walks into the Habs dressing room and says, I need players who hate to lose. A player pipes up, I hate to lose, Mr. Irvin. Coach replies, no, you don't. This is how the Oilers make me feel all too often from JB.
Oh, that's good.
This one says, somewhere Tobias Reader is saying, see, it wasn't just me. And then Sean Z says, ha, 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 ha. Yamo's on waivers. Go get him back for... No. I will not entertain that.
Don't worry it.
Hey, Yamamoto, great guy. He's a good little dude when he was here. Had some good stretches with the Edmonton Oilers, but he for me, he doesn't bring what you need for this Edmonton Oilers team. It's unfortunate. It's pretty crazy because he's still fairly young and he's fallen off, eh?
Yeah, it's tough. I remember when he was drafted, and a lot of people were touting him as the sleeper pick in that draft, and I was buying into that quite a bit. And I remember when he drafted, and his first interview he did, it was who had been the GM at the time? Was that Chiarelli? But he said this is the best decision, or he said you won't regret this decision.
Yeah.
He said something along the lines of that.
You won't regret if you draft.
Yeah, like because I was gonna.
He was good.
He was good.
Yeah.
There was that time, man, where he had it was like he was a point per game player. He had like 28 points in 26 games played. When Nugent Hopkins, Draisaitl, and Yamamoto was just the best line in all of hockey, and it was very promising. It looked great, and then he had that 20-goal season, which was awesome. And it was kind of just he could never find his groove. He was very inconsistent, and then obviously, what happened. Gets traded, and yeah. It's interesting.
It's crazy. The Oil Stream pregame show brought to you by GCL Diesel. GCL specializes in giving your diesel engine's heart a second wind. We test and remanufacture fuel injectors, pumps, and turbos for a wide range of applications, breathing new life into vital components. GCL Diesel, thank you, like always, for being on board with the Oil Stream pregame show. We'll be back following the action down at Rogers Place between the Edmonton Oilers and Pittsburgh Penguins. Reminder, if you're going to the game, tune in to us, of course, after. But also YouTube, Trev. They're honoring Greg McTavish and Dr. Randy Gregg following tonight's game. So stay in your seats. Pay your respects to two absolute legends for the Edmonton Oilers. It is your Edmonton Oilers, Pittsburgh Penguins, Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Yevgeny Malkin. It's going to be a fun night. We'll break it all down on the post-game show with YouTube Trev, Matt Kassian, and myself. If you'd like to continue to watch EST, the audio stream will flip to the Green and Gold Kickoff Show with Jay Milne and Matty Iwanek, or you can go watch them for the last half hour on YouTube. For YouTube Trev and Matt Kassian, I'm Hernan Salas. Enjoy the game. We'll talk in about 3 hours.